Morning after my brother's engagement party, I opened my banking app while the coffee machine was still hissing, and the number on the screen stopped me cold. $43,000. Gone. Not a partial withdrawal. Not a single suspicious charge. The entire balance of the house fund I'd been building since I was 22 had been drained down to $87.12. I remember standing in the rental cabin's tiny kitchen in my socks, looking at the screen like it was written in a language I almost recognized but couldn't quite read. My fiancé Marcus was still asleep upstairs. The Smoky Mountains were turning pink outside the window. My brother and his new fiancé and my parents and my aunt were all asleep in their own rooms down the hall. We'd rented the whole place for the weekend. My mother had insisted. I scrolled back through the transactions. There it was, a wire transfer initiated 3 days earlier. $38,000 to an account I didn't recognize. Then a series of smaller withdrawals at ATMs in our hometown. Cash. My mother's signature move. I sat down on the cold tile floor and tried to breathe. Here's what you need to understand about me before we go any further. I'm a hospice nurse. Have been for 9 years. I'm the kind of person who shows up 40 minutes early to every shift and stays an hour late if a family needs me. I budget down to the dollar. I clip coupons. I drove the same Honda Civic from 2014 until it died on the highway last spring, and then I bought another used Honda Civic because I couldn't justify the payment on anything newer. Every single dollar of that $43,000 had a story. Overtime shifts on Christmas Eve, skipped vacations. The Mediterranean cruise my college roommates went on without me because I said I couldn't afford it, when really I just couldn't bring myself to spend the money. Birthday cash from grandparents who were now in the ground. Tax refunds. The settlement from when I got rear-ended at a red light in 2019. That money was a house. Not just any house, a specific house. A 2-bedroom Craftsman with a wraparound porch in a neighborhood I'd been driving through on my lunch breaks for the last 2 years. Watching prices, watching listings, calculating how close I was getting. Marcus and I had picked out paint colors in a notebook. We'd named the dog we didn't have yet, and now it was $87. I knew. Before I even called the bank, I knew. My mother was on that account, had been since I was 19 and starting my first real nursing job, when she sat me down at the kitchen table and explained, with that patient teacher voice she used, that having a parent on the account was a smart financial move. Just in case anything happened to me. Just in case I got sick. Just in case I needed someone to access the funds in an emergency. She'd helped me set up direct deposit. She'd been so proud. I'd been 19. I thought she was being thoughtful. I called the bank when they opened at 8. The woman on the phone was named Tanya, and I will love Tanya for the rest of my life because she didn't sigh or rush me or treat me like an idiot. She walked me through it. The wire transfer was made by my mother. It went to a debt consolidation company in Atlanta. The cash withdrawals were also her. The transactions were entirely legal because my mother was a joint account holder with full access. There was nothing the bank could do. But I can tell you, Tanya said, very quietly, that you can remove her from the account today. You'd need her to sign, or you can close this account and open a new one in just your name. We can do that this morning if you want. I told her I'd come in Monday. I needed to think. I needed to confront my mother first. I went upstairs and got back in bed next to Marcus, who was still asleep, and I stared at the wooden beams on the ceiling for the next 3 hours. I didn't cry. I want to be clear about that. I didn't cry once. I just lay there, and I watched the light change in the room, and I felt something inside me get very quiet and very still, the way a deer goes still when it smells a predator. The brunch was at 11. My mother had been planning it for weeks. She brought her own tablecloth. There were fresh flowers in mason jars and a printed menu in calligraphy, and a banner that said congratulations that she'd had custom made in my brother's college colors. My brother is 2 years younger than me. His name is Ben. His fiancée is named Adrian. They'd been together for 14 months. The engagement had been a surprise to literally no one except, somehow, Adrian, who'd posted a teary video on Instagram the night before about how she never saw it coming. I sat down at the table in the seat my mother had assigned me, which was at the end, next to my aunt. I let her serve me eggs. I let her pour me orange juice. I let her squeeze my shoulder as she passed behind my chair. My father was sitting across from me, reading something on his phone, not making eye contact with anyone. My brother and Adrian were holding hands and laughing about something. My aunt was telling a story about a cat. The whole room smelled like coffee and lavender from the candles my mother had brought. I waited until everyone had food on their plates. Then, I set down my fork. Mom, I said, I checked my account this morning. The room didn't go silent right away. My aunt was still talking about the cat, but my mother's hand, which had been reaching for the cream, paused in the air for just a second. Just a beat. Then she picked up the cream and added it to her coffee like nothing had happened. Oh, sweetheart, she said. We were going to talk about that when we got home. Talk about what? My brother asked, finally tuning in. My mother smiled at me. I want you to picture this smile. It was the same smile she'd given me when I was 8 and she found out I'd been sneaking my vegetables to the dog. Indulgent. A little sad. Like I was a small problem she'd patiently solve. Your sister's house fund, she said to Ben. Like she was reporting on the weather. Some of it went to help with the wedding planning. We can talk about it later. Some of it, I said. Honey, she put her hand over mine. I let her. I want to be clear about that too. I let her. You're young. You'll earn it back. Your brother only gets married once. We needed a deposit for the venue and the caterer and Adrian's dress, and we just couldn't pull it together in time. You've always been such a good saver. You'll have another year, and you'll be right back where you were. I'm 31, I said. That money took 9 years to save, and you have so many more years ahead of you. Adrian was looking back and forth between us with her mouth slightly open. Ben had gone very pale. My aunt had finally stopped talking about the cat. My father was still reading his phone, but I could see his ears were red. How much? I said. What? How much did you take, Mom? From my account. She laughed. She actually laughed. She actually laughed. It was a small laugh, but it was a laugh. And she looked around the table like she was waiting for everyone else to laugh with her, like this was a charming family moment. I didn't take anything, sweetheart. I'm on the account. We discussed this. How much? It's not a matter of $42,913, I said. That's how much. The wedding venue was 12 grand. The caterer was 8. Adrian's dress was 1,500. That leaves about 21,000 unaccounted for. So where's the rest, Mom? My father looked up from his phone for the first time. My mother's smile stayed in place, but something behind her eyes had started moving very fast. We can talk about this at home. We're talking about it now. Honey, this isn't appropriate. Where's the rest of my money? My brother said my name. He said it the way you'd say it to a horse that was getting spooked. Like he was trying to calm me down. I looked at him and I realized, in that single second, that he knew. He didn't know everything, maybe, but he knew enough. The wedding had been planned for 10 months. The venue had been planned for 10 months. The venue had been booked since spring. There had never been a shortfall. My mother had been moving money out of my account for almost a year, and my brother had been watching it happen and saying nothing. Then, I said, did you know about this? It's not. Did you know? He looked at our mother. That was the answer. My phone started ringing. I almost didn't answer it. The screen said it was a number I didn't recognize but had an Atlanta area code. I picked it up and stepped away from the table because my hands were shaking now and I didn't want them to see. I gave my name. Ma'am, this is Reginald Coyne with the firm of Coyne and Boatwright. I'm calling regarding your father's account with our office. I tried to reach him directly, but the number we have on file isn't going through. I walked further away from the table, into the living room, to the window that looked out over the mountains. What account? There was a pause. I'm sorry, who am I speaking with? I told him again. I gave him my middle name. I gave him my date of birth. I told him I had power of attorney for my father, which was a lie. But he didn't ask for documentation. Ma'am, your father owes our client a settlement balance of $147,000 from the judgment last September. He's been making payments through a debt consolidation service, but the last payment was returned for insufficient funds and we're preparing to escalate. I need to speak with him directly today or we're going to have to begin garnishment proceedings. The mountains looked very far away. What judgment? I said. The civil judgment from his former business partner. The misappropriation case. Surely he's discussed this with. When did the last payment go through? Before the one that bounced. 3 days ago. $38,000 was wired through the consolidation company, but that brought the balance current only through July. He's been 6 months behind. I thanked Reginald Coyne. I told him I'd have my father call him back within the hour. I hung up the phone. I want to tell you what I was feeling, but I'm not sure I was feeling anything yet. There's a thing that happens in hospice work when a patient finally lets go, where the room sort of empties out for a second. The grief comes later. In that first second, there's just a kind of clean, cool air. That's what I was standing in. The clean, cool air. I walked back to the table. Everyone was looking at me. My mother had put her hand on my father's arm, and they were having a hissing, whispered argument that they pretended to stop when I walked up. I didn't sit down. "Dad," I said. He didn't look at me. "Dad, how much do you owe Reginald Coyne?" My father went the color of skim milk. "Who?" my mother said. She said it too fast. "Reginald Coyne, the lawyer, the one who just called me because the last payment to the debt consolidation service bounced. The 38 grand from my account paid off a few months. You're still 6 months behind. He's about to garnish your wages." My father set down his phone. He looked at my mother. She looked at the tablecloth. My aunt, God bless her, said, "What in the name of sweet baby Jesus is happening at this brunch?" I'm going to tell you the short version of what happened over the next 40 minutes. Because the long version is mostly people crying and yelling and Adrienne running upstairs to put her hair up and coming back down with it down again, which I don't think she realized she was doing. My father had been sued 2 years earlier by his former business partner for siphoning funds from their accounting firm. He'd lost. The judgment was over $140,000. He hadn't told anyone in the family except my mother. My mother had been quietly draining my account for almost 10 months to keep the payments going, because if the payments stopped, the court would seize my parents' house, their retirement, everything. The wedding had been a convenient cover for a single large withdrawal, but the rest of it, the smaller ATM withdrawals, the chunks of 2 and 3 and 5,000 at a time, those had been going on since the previous summer. My brother had figured it out in October. He'd confronted my mother. She told him to keep quiet because she was going to put it back before I noticed. "You knew," I said to him. "For 4 months. You knew. She said she'd handle it. She was stealing from me. She said you'd understand. She was stealing from me, Ben. You don't know what it's been like at home. $43,000. What was I supposed to do, turn in my own mother?" I looked at him for a long time. He'd gotten his hair cut for the engagement. He was wearing a sweater Adrienne had bought him. His new fiancée was sitting next to him with her hand on his back, looking confused and a little scared, and not, I noticed, particularly surprised. "Did you know?" I asked her. She didn't answer. "Did you know where the wedding money came from?" I didn't ask," she said. My mother started crying then. Big, shoulder-shaking sobs. She said she'd never meant for it to go this far. She said she'd been planning to tell me. She said I had to understand. She was protecting the family. She was protecting my father. She was protecting our home. She said if I'd been a real daughter, I would have offered. She said it like that. A real daughter would have offered. "I'm calling the police," I said. That stopped the crying. My father said my name. My mother said, "You will not. I'm calling the police, and then I'm calling Reginald Coyne back, and I'm telling him that the last payment came from a stolen account, and then I'm going to the bank Monday morning, and I'm pressing charges." "Charges against who?" my mother said. Her voice had gone very flat. "Against you, Mom. I'm on the account. You took the money under false pretenses. That's fraud. That's elder financial abuse in reverse. Except I'm not elderly, so it's just regular theft. And you've been doing it for 10 months. There's a paper trail, a mile long. Sweetheart, don't call me that." I went upstairs. I packed my bag. Marcus, who had woken up sometime during the shouting and come downstairs to find his future in-laws losing their minds, packed his bag. We were in the rental car within 20 minutes. My aunt walked us out. She handed me a granola bar through the window, which is something she's done since I was 4 years old. And she said, "You go on. You do whatever you need to do. I'll handle them." She did too. My aunt is 68 years old, and she has zero patience for nonsense. And she stayed the whole rest of the weekend and apparently made my mother's life a living hell. I love her so much. I drove. Marcus didn't say anything for the first 40 minutes. Then he reached over and put his hand on my knee and said, "What do you need?" "I need to think." "Okay. I need to not be married right now." He took his hand back. "Not to you," I said. "I mean, I can't plan a wedding right now. I can't do any of this right now." "I need a minute." "Take a minute." "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry." I called the bank Monday at 8 in the morning and Tanya was there and she walked me through closing the account. She put a freeze on it first so my mother couldn't pull anything else out over the weekend. We opened a new account in just my name at a different branch in a different town. I drove 45 minutes to do it. I went to the police on Tuesday. The officer who took my statement was a woman in her 50s who'd seen everything. She asked me if I was sure. She asked me if I understood that pressing charges against a parent was a long road. She asked me if I had documentation. I had everything. Bank statements, screenshots, the recorded phone call with Reginald Coyne, which I'd had the presence of mind to start recording about 30 seconds in. Text from my mother going back 2 years. I pressed charges. It took 8 months. I'm not going to walk you through all of it because honestly, most of it was just waiting. Waiting for the DA. Waiting for the depositions. Waiting for my mother's lawyer to file motions. Waiting for my mother to stop calling me 40 times a day, which she only did after my lawyer sent a cease and desist. Waiting for my brother to text me and apologize, which he eventually did, in the form of a long, rambling message that I read once and then deleted. The criminal case ended in a plea deal. My mother pled guilty to a reduced felony charge. She got 2 years of probation and was ordered to pay full restitution, plus interest plus my legal fees. $47,000 and change. She had to take out a second mortgage on the house to do it. She paid every cent. The court made sure of it. The civil case against my father went forward separately and his wages got garnished anyway, and they had to sell the house in the end. My parents moved into an apartment. I don't know what it looks like. I haven't seen it. I haven't spoken to my mother since the deposition. I haven't spoken to my father since the brunch. My brother got married in June. I wasn't there. He sent me a long letter about a month before the wedding asking if I'd come. He said he understood if I didn't, but that it would mean the world to him. He said our mother had really changed, that she was in therapy, that she was sorry. He said family was family. He said you only get one mother. I wrote back. I told him I loved him. I told him that I had loved him our whole lives and would love him for the rest of mine. I told him that the day he sat at that brunch table, knowing what our mother had done and said nothing, he stopped being someone I could share a wedding with. I told him I hoped his marriage was happy. I told him I meant it. He hasn't written back. Marcus and I got married in September at the courthouse with my aunt and 4 friends from the hospital as witnesses. We had cheeseburgers afterwards at a place that does milkshakes. I wore a dress I'd had in my closet for 3 years. He wore a suit his brother gave him. It was the best day of my life. We bought the house, not the Craftsman with the wraparound porch. That one sold to someone else while I was busy giving depositions. We bought a different house, 2 streets over. A little bungalow with a sloped backyard and a yellow front door. I painted the door myself the weekend we moved in. I sat on the front steps with the paintbrush in my hand and a cold beer next to me, and I cried for the first time since any of it had happened. I'm not sure what I was crying about. The house. The dog we still didn't have yet. The mother I used to think I had. The brother who knew. The version of me who was 19 at a kitchen table and said yes because she trusted the person sitting across from her. I don't know. We got the dog 2 months later. He's a mutt from the shelter. He has one ear that flops and one ear that doesn't. We named him Tanya, after the woman at the bank. I want to say something here to anyone listening because I know what it's like to be the responsible one. I know what it's like to be told you're the strong one, the steady one, the one who can take it, the one who will bounce back, the one who has time, the one who will understand. I know what it's like to grow up being praised for not asking for things and then realizing somewhere in your late 20s that you've spent your whole life being praised for being easy to take from. You don't owe anyone your savings. You don't owe anyone your future. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why your name is the only name on your account. You don't owe anyone a relationship that's costing you the life you're trying to build. Blood doesn't make someone safe. Sometimes blood is just the door they got in through. Take your name off the joint account. Take their name off yours. Move your money to a bank in a town they've never heard of. Tell no one your salary. Tell no one your savings balance. Tell no one your plans. Build your life behind a yellow door, or a blue door, or a red door, or a red door, or any door at all. As long as it's yours. I still work hospice. Still on the early shift. I leave my house at 4:30 in the morning when the sky is still the color of a bruise, And I drive to the unit and I sit with people who are dying. And I hold their hands while their families come and go. Some of those families are good. Some of those families are not. I have learned to tell the difference faster than I used to. When my patients ask me, the way the dying sometimes do, whether I have a family of my own, I tell them about Marcus and about Tanya, the dog. I tell them about my aunt who lives 40 minutes away and who I see every Sunday for breakfast. I tell them about the friends from the hospital who stood with me at the courthouse. I tell them about the yellow door. I don't tell them about my mother. I don't tell them about my father. I don't tell them about my brother. Those aren't stories for the dying. Those are stories for the living, for anyone who needs to hear them. For anyone who needs to hear them. For anyone who's sitting at a kitchen table right now being asked to sign a piece of paper they don't have to sign. You don't have to sign it. You're allowed to keep what you've built. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed. I think about that brunch table sometimes, the lavender candles and the printed menus and my mother's hand reaching for the cream. I think about how every choice I made before that morning was a thread, and every choice she made was a thread, and how all of us had been weaving the same blanket for years without realizing what pattern was forming. None of it came out of nowhere. The day I sat down at 19 and signed my name next to hers on a piece of paper at the bank, I planted a seed. The day she first moved $100 out of my account to cover a parking ticket and never told me, she watered it. The day my brother Ben sat across from me at Thanksgiving knowing what she'd done and passed me the rolls, he watered it too. $43,000 doesn't disappear in a single morning. It disappears in 1,000 small moments where someone was supposed to say something and didn't, including, for a long time, me. I want to be careful here because I don't want to sound like I'm blaming myself for being stolen from. I'm not. What my mother did was a crime and a betrayal, and I will not soften it. But there's a difference between blame and accountability, and the part that belonged to me, I have to own, because owning it is the only way I get to be different going forward. I was 19, and I trusted her. That was reasonable. I was 25, and I never checked the joint account because I didn't want to seem suspicious. That was less reasonable. I was 29, and I noticed a withdrawal I didn't make, and asked her about it and accepted, "Oh, that was for groceries, I'll pay you back," as an answer. That one was on me. Goodness isn't the same as naivety. I had spent so much of my life thinking that being a good daughter meant not asking questions, not making waves, not protecting myself. Because protecting yourself from your family was a thing only suspicious or selfish people did. I had it backwards. Loving someone doesn't mean handing them a key to your life and hoping they don't use it badly. Loving someone means being honest enough to keep the locks in working order for both your sakes. The strength I have now isn't the strength of someone who was born tough. I wasn't. I cried in the bathroom at work for a week after I pressed charges. The strength is just the part of me that finally chose to act after years of choosing not to. Every day since that morning, I've been learning that I'm allowed to draw a line and let people fall on the other side of it, even people I love, even people I'm related to. The yellow door I painted that Saturday afternoon isn't really about the door. It's about the choice to build something that's mine and to be the one who decides who walks through it. That choice was always available to me. I just had to be willing to make it.